In this video review, I'm going to cover an application that's been around for a while for the iPad, but they've had some recent improvements that have made it much more usable in the flipped classroom environment. The application is called Jot, and you can see it down here in the bottom right hand corner of my screen, J-O-T, and it came out initially as just a whiteboard application. And as I said, I'm going to show you some of the new features they've added that I think make it very usable for us that are doing the flipped classroom. So as a whiteboard application, it's pretty much like any of the other ones that you've seen. One maybe drawback to this is you can't do shapes on your whiteboard. You have to do everything freehand. Again, for what we're using it for, it hasn't been a big problem. On the left-hand side over here, just quickly, I'll go through the different parts of the toolbar. You have a color palette that has 4 constant colors that are always available. If you hold down on any one of the spaces, you can select a different color and it'll remain in the palette. And then you can easily just flip back and forth for whatever color you want to draw with. Okay, at the bottom here I have an arrow that will actually hide the palette if I want to do that. And I can bring it back. I have an eraser button. Then I have different pen tip sizes. I like this second one here. Tends to work pretty well. Photo roll, we'll get into that in a few minutes. And then we have information about the developer and things like that. This second button with the 2 pieces of paper here, if I click that, it brings up all of the jots, or they call them notes, that are available for me to work with. And you can organize those by folder. We'll get into that as well. Then the next button with the plus is a new jot right here. So if I click that, it creates a new blank page. And then we'll get into this other button here that has the square with the arrow coming out of it, and we'll talk about what all the things are that are in there. And we have a trash can, and then we have forward and backward, step by step. So as we go ahead and write, we have the black pen tool. I can write on the screen, okay, with whatever I want to write as I interact with the students, if that's what I wish to do. Now, if I can back up to get rid of those items, or I can hold my finger down on the item and drag it up to the corner and see a trash can appeared. You have to actually put your finger on the trash can and the lid opens, and then you let go, and that'll get rid of the notes there. Another option is I can just hit the trash can and I can delete the entire note. Now you notice there when I was within that, when I highlighted, I have cut, paste, let's try it again. I have cut, paste, duplicate, or I can click on this color banner, and any of the current colors that I have in my palette over there, I could change that item to just that color. So you don't have to redraw something if you accidentally did it in the wrong color. So it does have a lot of intuitive features in the whiteboard part of the application. Now one other thing we can do is we can double click with, or we can click with 2 fingers, and it brings up a text box. So now if you don't like having to draw things, you can go ahead and do something like that. Now I could have this item, and if you want to edit, this would allow me to move it. And now if I want to edit the text, I just double click on it again and it brings up the edit box. I can change the size or whatever I might want to do. Okay, so we could have a student do that problem. They could come over and they could do the problem. And we'll get into that here in a second. So from a whiteboard standpoint, it has a lot of the main features that most of us would be looking for. Now, the things that I like with this new feature that they've added, I can click on my jots and I can go to any of these that I have already set up. Now, if you notice in the top left-hand corner, let me see if you guys can see that, sorry, there's a folders button. If I click folders, I have all of my jots, I have math, and I have fire at house. So those are just some quick folders I made. So if I want to go to math, I click on math, and you see it brought up just my math folder. Okay, if I want to go back to my fire stuff, I click fire at house, and there's nothing in there. So how do I get those into that folder? Well, I go to my saved, and you can see I have 3 of them here that are fire related. So I click edit, and I can select whatever photos I want. Okay, and the edit button, hopefully you can see that too. It's up there in the top, next to that. Now it says delete, but it did say edit. We're going to click move, which is now over here in the top left. And we're going to move it to the fire folder. Okay, and now it did that. So now in my save jots, I just have this one simple one. If I want to create a new one, I just click new, a blank jot comes up, I write, and now when I go to my save jots, you can see the one I just did is there. And if I want to create another blank one, I go like that. Okay, let's talk about importing a photo into your to your Jot whiteboard. So if I want to do that, I click on the photo roll. And I have another feature here too. Those of you that need grid paper, you can do that. You can do lined or you can do plain. So kind of weird that they put it in with the camera, but I guess it's considered a background, so that's why it's there. So if I want to select from photos, and I'll go into my camera roll and I want to select this photo here. One thing about doing your photos, when you see the red box, that's the viewable area on the screen. So what you'll want to do is you can move the photo so that just the crop part is your viewed area. Or if you need the entire photo to fit in the page, then we put it in the corner like that. We grab the blue dot and we slide the photo up, and it will actually crop down and be right in your box there. Okay, or just in the general area of where you want it to be. Okay, and hit done. And you can obviously rotate there. So you see it does a nice job of bringing that in if you wanted to talk about it. Now I got a little white at the top. You guys probably can't see it there. But if I want to, I just grab the photo with 2 fingers and I can drag it around, or I can increase and decrease the size just like we always do. Okay, so that could be my background, and now I can go ahead if I wanted to, as I was talking, I could go through these different steps. Okay, and I could do that. Another option that I've thought about is I can get rid of that. From where I'm at right here, I can hold down my home and my sleep button on the iPad. And remember, it takes a screenshot. So now I have a screenshot of that annotated picture. So even though you can't necessarily make a video right out of this application, you can use your real-time drawings to save as video. Now I could also do this box here, which would allow me to save the photo that way too. I can save it to photos. But the screenshot tends to work pretty well too. So now let's get into what I think is the most powerful feature of this application, is the live sharing. You can see that right there. So I'm going to hit live sharing, and it already has my name and it has session. So I'll just hit share, and you can type anything you want in there. Okay, so it's going to automatically bring up, and it's going to say that I'm up there in the top. Let me go to my folders. We'll just say we're in a math class. Okay, and I could have this problem on the screen, and I'm shared. Now the part of this that's really nice is I'm going to bring in the other iPad here. I could have another iPad here running Jot at a different location, in our case a different firehouse, and I have them join my Jot. So they go to live sharing, and they put in that their house too, because that's where they are, and they use my session name and hit share. And you'll see what I have over on my screen shows up on theirs. Now I'm going to write on my screen over here off to the right. And you can see as I write on the screen, it shows up on their screen. Okay? And then the same way, I'm going to grab maybe a blue pen for them, and I'm going to write with a blue pen here. Okay? And as I look on the other iPad, their blue pen is there. So you have that interaction that I was talking about from remote locations. Now, you guys, I could see a lot of the regular everyday instructors that are in a classroom using this to pass an iPad around the room with problems on it. So let's say my other iPad to the left over there just got passed to a new student. So I just grab this and I go to this problem. And now they have a blank screen, and they can start over here. Sorry, I'm drawing it left-handed, but they could start doing their problem over there on that other screen. And if the instructor wants to say something back, you can collaborate back by saying, you missed the 24, whatever it might be. So you could do this. In our case, it's important to be able to do it via phone because we need to stay in our response areas, and we can't have the whole fire department coming down for one training class. So this allows us a great tool to interact and still be able to get the lesson out, not necessarily on video like we always have been doing, but this gives us a real-time interaction. So let's say now I want to go to another Jot, and I go to this one, might have it done. And you can see I spent a little time here so that I didn't have to draw this, and this literally took me 2 minutes to make it, but I didn't have to actually draw it and have it be kind of sloppy. I could have these problems all pre-done, and then now a student could take this other board and they could come over here and say 12 times 4, and then it's 8 and 4, so they know that the perimeter is 48 feet. Okay, so something like that. Again, just another way that you could use it in the classroom. It's a really strong tool, in my opinion. Now for us, just to give you a little flavor of what one of the other things that we do, and I could see this in a geography type situation as well, but we'll take a Google image screenshot and Google Earth screenshot of maybe a fire situation that we had, and we can come in and we can explain what the situation was. So maybe we had, when we arrived, we had a fire on this back porch area, okay, inside the house. And we might want to say that the first crew arrived. Let's make that a text box, so we can do something like this. Okay, so I could say the first fire truck arrived and they parked right there. Maybe I want to make that a little bigger. Okay, so they parked right there. And again, I could have that pre-done as well, so that I'm not spending time having to draw that. So they parked right in front of the building, and they took their hose line and they stretched it down the sidewalk of the driveway through the front. Whoops, sorry. Choose this one. Down the driveway, through the front door of the house, across the living room, into the kitchen, and they were able to attack the fire there. And maybe we had, then now the other crew that's out here at the other firehouse might say, yeah, we also had this fire here that was kind of starting to go this way, and we wanted to keep it from that house, so we chose to take our larger 2.5-inch line and we positioned it right in this area, and we were able to protect this exposure and push this fire out that way into the yard. Okay, so that's just to give you a little flavor of how in the fire department we do some different things like that. So definitely another little picture here, we can do simulations. So we'll have a simulation that looks like this, and then we'll talk about where the survivable occupants would be, where you would attack the fire, and we can just carry on discussions with our crews about how they would handle this situation. So again, a little bit different than the traditional classroom, but we've found a way to use the flipped learning principles and get the information out to our students. So last thing I want to touch on, you can email these images as Jot files so that someone else could edit them via email, and then they could send them back and you could continue to work on them. Or if you have a bunch of notes, maybe you're brainstorming on your whiteboard, you could end up where you take those notes and then email those as a PDF or whatever way you want to do it, or directly print them off. So it has a lot of the really good features that most of the whiteboard applications have. But again, that live sharing is a huge feature for us being in remote locations. So I hope you guys get a chance to download Jot for your iPad. Oh, one last feature I want to talk about. If you're wondering, if you don't have an iPad, you have to have an iPad to run it, but if people want to collaborate with you, they can actually view via any web browser on any computer, laptop, phone, whatever, they can view your presentation. They can't respond back to you or draw back to you unless they're on an iPad, but they go to jotwithme.com, put in the same information, and they can see real time what you have going on. So I hope you enjoyed that, and get out and use Jot. Have a great day. Thanks.